Wow. Hi everybody, we're just waiting for a few more people to come through, and then we'll get cracking. So you might notice there's myself, Liam, and Michael on the call. We're all in various different locations, so the visuals might differ slightly. So if you can't see us all properly, I do apologise, but you should be able to hear us all loud and clear. If anybody can't hear what we're saying throughout the session, just drop us a note in the chat, and we'll try and get something sorted. We've got our best tech people on the job. Okay. Give it another few seconds.
Definitely feels like the sun's out, everyone. It's starting to turn more towards spring at the moment. It's puts everyone in a good mood.
Hopefully the temperature follows soon. Okay, we're a couple of minutes past now. So we've got a message here. Michael, your mic is switched off. Thank you, Peter, for that.
Hear me okay now?
Yep, we've got you now. So yours has just gone back on mute, Michael, which is fine.
Yeah.
If you want to just bring it in when you're talking. Great. Okay, let's get started then. Peter's just messaged again. Yeah, so it's your mics are switched off for now, but we will go into how we're going to orchestrate the Q&A later on in the session. But just for now, just for ease, just so there's no sort of noise interference, it's been naturally done. So it is on purpose, that, Peter, I promise. Okay. So yeah, welcome everybody to this exclusive webinar session uncovering the hidden advantage for contractors, business owners and recruitment agents. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Sam Wright, Head of Marketing here at the Danbro Group, and today we're going to be discussing how accountants and umbrella companies should be going beyond payroll to provide a more complete service for their clients, for you guys, namely through benefits and perks and then exclusive access to high quality financial planning and mortgage advice. We're going to be looking at the value of a financial planning and mortgage advisory service that's tailored to those in our sector, and we'll also give you a little first glimpse, sneak peek at an exciting new offering that the Danbro Group is rolling out a little bit later on. So to discuss all this and a bit more, we're joined by two titans of industry, Danbro's new head of sales, Michael Howard, who some of you may recognise already, and our special guest speaker is Liam Winstanley, who is the director at Danbro Financial Planning. Liam's here to give you guys some sort of handy tips of how to make the most of your money if you have complex income streams or challenging financial circumstances, such as things you should be looking out for and the ways in which an IFA like him can help. As well as that, we'll give you plenty of time at the end, as I mentioned to Peter, to ask him and Michael some questions of your own. But before we dive into it, why don't I bring the guys in themselves to introduce themselves properly. Michael, if I could come to you first, if you just want to start telling everybody a little bit about yourself, your journey up to this point and your role at the Danbro Group.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. I suppose year 15, 16 years now in the contractor industry, working across a number of umbrella partners. Main role for me is to ensure that we're adding key value to our supply chain, offering a wide range of product services, and also making sure that everything is as compliant as it possibly can be, with the government likely to bring in legislative changes over the coming years. So for any compliance, any technical or any range of services that we can possibly help with, please do give me a shout.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. And same to yourself, Liam.
Thank you for inviting me on today, Sam, Michael. Glad to be here. My name is Liam Winstanley. I'm a director and chartered financial planner at Danbro Financial Planning. We started the business around 6 years ago to integrate in with the accountancy and the payroll and umbrella side. And I'll give a little description in terms of what we do shortly. But essentially, yeah, we're an independent financial advice part of the Danbro Group.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. For anyone who isn't aware, both Danbro Umbrella, Danbro Accounting and Trafalgar Umbrella are all part of the Danbro group. So for ease of use, we might refer to Danbro as an umbrella term, no pun intended, for each of the group brands that are represented here today. But essentially, it is representative of all the brands that you guys might be familiar with. So let's get going then. So Liam, if you could start maybe by telling us a little bit more about Danbro Financial Planning, as you just alluded to there, the services that you guys offer, and perhaps the relationship that DFP have got with the Danbro Group and its associated brands.
Sure, no problem at all. So yeah, as I said, we're effectively we're an independent financial advice and mortgage advice practice. So we cover a range of solutions and services for the contractor market, including, as we mentioned earlier, provision of mortgage and related services around mortgage advice, independent mortgage broking. We also help people with pensions, retirement planning, estate planning, and investments. So we have a team of advisors. Some are more focused on the wealth and pension side of the business, and some are more focused on the mortgage side. So in terms of how we fit into the group, the reason we came into the group in the first place was purely and simply a lot of demand from contractors, company directors, umbrella contractors, for services in and around, sourcing mortgage finance, how to use the money efficiently and effectively. And so that's what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Excellent, thank you. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit as well, just about what the sort of most common problems that people want to help you solve, thinking more specifically about the people who may be on this call.
Yeah, sure. So if I put it into two categories, first of all, we help a lot of contractors in particular, and people with complex income streams. So that could be agency employees, contractors, etc., self-employed people, company directors. A lot of them will come to us initially with issues around mortgages. So, for example, they might find it challenging, particularly if they're new to contracting. They might find it challenging to actually get set up with a mortgage, because some mortgage lenders will treat individuals with contractor income in a quite a strange way. Some of them don't quite know how to box them off, whether it's an umbrella contractor with a PAYE situation or a limited company contractor. And so we have that expertise where we can quickly identify your employment history, where you're at now, and we know which lenders will assess you more beneficially.
Great. Okay.
Well, sorry.
No, please continue. Sorry.
And then on the also sort of the wealth side of the business, most of the clients will come to us with issues around, the big questions they're asking are around things like, how could I use my pension planning to not just to mitigate my tax situation, but also to provide for my future self and my family. They may also come to us usually at a life stage where they're starting to think about those things. So what am I going to do post work? Do I want to maybe start phasing down my hours? How can I do that? Am I making the most of any allowances that I've got available? And we also assist with people coming again, perhaps from an employed background into a self-employed or a contractor situation, where they're looking to replace benefits that they might have had previously as an employee. So top of my head, things like life assurance, sick pay protection, etc.
Okay. And Michael, if I just bring you in here as well, you must see a lot of contractors in your role who have challenges in this area.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I think you're right. I think there's obviously quite a lot of changes over the sort of landscape of how workers are engaged over the past number of years. We've had travel and subsistence legislation for umbrella workers. We've had IR35 changes for a lot of limited company contractors having to move inside and go umbrella. And I think it's important that the wider audience, especially from a recruitment background and also a contractor background, fully understand and appreciate that there's still a number of benefits that the Danbro Group can provide, even though your situation may be slightly different than what it was last time you contracted, or last time you you looked at mortgaging, or maybe last time you looked at a private pension. And we'll come on to the specifics of what we can do in due course. But I think, a lot of the questions I'm being asked when I'm meeting with recruitment agencies is, how can you add value to my contractors? What genuine added value can you provide, rather than just the sort of vanilla payroll umbrella and a few employment benefits. And I think this is one of the main reasons why we're doing this webinar, Sam, is that I'm regularly getting asked, what added value perks can the Danbro Group really provide?
Excellent. Okay, so let's get into some specifics then. So we've mentioned mortgages, which we know obviously can be a real challenge for anybody, but specifically contractors and temporary workers, agency staff. So why is a specialist advisor like DFP and like yourselves, Liam, able to help with people with complex income streams and challenging financial histories so adeptly over some competitors, for instance?
I think it's a question of experience in the market, Sam. So you as I said before, we people will come to us often not as the first step, frankly. So they'll be trying to source a mortgage in the first place, and they'll be finding difficulties. So whether they've just started contracting, or whether they're running through. So, for example, I'll give you a couple of examples. If they're running through a limited company, for example, outside of IR35, some lenders and some mortgage brokers even will be minded to treat them almost like self-employed people. So they will look at the salary, and they will look at the dividends that they're taking, which might not tell the whole story of the background income. So, we're able to sort of leverage our experience there in order to quickly identify where we might be able to get them a better outcome, both from an underwriting perspective and a mortgage availability perspective. So yeah, and again, examples on the umbrella side, we come across quite a bit where we're often the second and third call, because people don't know we're here, and they've tried maybe another broker, or they've gone direct to the bank, and the bank said, well, 6-month contract, that's no good for us, and it can become a very frustrating, time-consuming process for the contractor themselves. And likewise, people with similarly complex incomes, with maybe with low salaries, high commission structures, things like that as well. So the background experience means we can quickly identify where not to go for that type of deal, and where to go for it as well, to save time and hassle, really.
Great, thank you. And just more generally, Michael, pay for recruiters and consultants often comprises salary plus bonuses and commission payments as well. What particular problems do that group face that DFP could help them with, do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think obviously there's a mix of audience on today's webinar, Sam. I think if we look at them separately, I think Liam's covered off some of the contractors. So contractors generally have a choice of payroll companies to go through. Each individual contractor is different. You have your typical blue collar workers that may have focuses around what the cost of the umbrella company is and how quickly they can get paid. I think a lot of background in terms of the Danbro Group, we maybe sit more in terms of white collar, and I think that's where we really shine in terms of added value. So if I'm a contractor and I've got a mortgage come up in the next 6 to 12 months, or I previously contributed towards a private pension, which partner can not only do the basics in terms of payroll and umbrella and employment, but who can actually help me as an individual be supportive? Because questions for contractors is, it is a lifestyle choice, and in order to have that lifestyle, you want additional layers of added value, and I think this is where the DFP division of the group definitely helps. I think if we look at some of the agency supplies we have on this webinar today, some are familiar, some have not come across previously, but depending on how your income is structured, some of you will have an element of salary, some of you will have an element of bonus, commission, how much you bill, and again, we've seen over the last sort of 2 years that the interest rates are phenomenally higher maybe than what they were when maybe original mortgage was taken out. So as an agency partner, you may have a choice of 4 or 5 umbrella companies to get your contractors through, but actually which one of them umbrella companies can actually add value to you as well. You know, like Liam said, we've got experience in terms of which mortgage lenders will take into account commission, bonus, and you know, ensuring that you get the best possible deal, which could be with you for 2 or 5 years, depending on how long you get it. And you know, we're not just here for, you know, supplying a worker to be paid 1 week at a time. We're here for the longevity. And I think with our range of products across the group, which we're obviously going to continue to talk about today, it makes a massive difference with that relationship to not only the contractor but the recruitment agencies as well.
Definitely, thank you. We've got a lot to cover today, so we are going to move away from mortgages now a little bit. But just to say, there is going to be ample opportunity at the end for you guys to put your questions to Michael and Liam, and also because I know we've had a few late joiners, so anybody who did miss the start of the webinar, we are recording it, and we will be communicating that to you over the next day or so. So don't worry if you've missed any of the session so far. So we've got lots of successful people on the call. Liam, perhaps this one for you. How might a higher earning contractor, say someone earning north of 100,000, for instance, make the best use of their money over the longer term, whether that's pensions, investments, tax efficiency? I'm sure there's, you know, hours worth of stuff, material that you could go through now, but just in a snapshot, if you would.
Well, I think the key thing there is it's not purely about an income level, but I'll deal with the income question you asked, because I think 100,000 is it's been primed nicely there. But yeah, so I'm sure people are probably aware on the call that, you know, once your income goes north of 100,000, you start losing things. So you start losing your income tax allowance, such that the amount of income you can earn tax-free, which is about 12,500 a year. Once your income gets to sort of 125,000, that allowance is tapered away, £2 for every pound over the threshold that you are. And what that effectively creates is a 60% marginal rate of income tax on any money that you earn between 100 and 125,000. So, you know, one of the obvious things that people get in touch with us about is, you know, how can I go about making some pension contributions? Well, you know, there's various ways you can do that, and what that has the effect of doing is it reduces your taxable income back down to below 100,000 and restores your personal allowance, meaning that you've effectively had 60% tax relief on your pension contribution. So that's sort of one area. The 100,000 as well is relevant. I'm no sort of expert on the detail of this, but I think there was an article in the Times over the weekend regarding the loss of childcare benefits once you go over £100,000, and it's not a phased away thing. It's once your income hits, so once one person in the household hits over 100,000, you start losing tax-free and free hours tax benefits to the impact where you're actually losing real money. Yeah. Helping people with that sort of technical and tax driven thing is what we do. But we always, when you're talking to somebody who's trying to help you with your future planning, you've got to want to start with the end in mind. So a lot of the work we do, Sam, is not so much around the products initially. It's around sort of, where are you trying to get to with this stuff? You know, what are your long-term objectives? You know, when you want to retire, do you want to send your kids away to college and university? You know, what do you see your future lifestyle looking like, and how much income and money are we going to need to do that?
Yep.
Once we build a picture of that, we're then able to sort of rewind and go, okay, what resources have you got available now? So, you know, what stuff have you got in place now? What potential income have you got available to put towards your objectives? And then it's a case of working the way through the different sort of options that might be available to help improve the future position, but also improve the current position where we can from a tax point of view.
Great, thank you. And Michael, have you got anything to add there in terms of higher earners, whether that's limited company directors or contractors or agency staff, and potentially talk a little bit about pensions as well?
Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Liam. I think, I suppose touching on what I mentioned earlier is that significantly over the last 4 or 5 years, contractors previously self-certified their own I-35 status. They were getting paid gross. They were able to put money into their own private pension, and like Liam's mentioned, as soon as you earn over a certain amount, your tax allowances reduce and change. So contractors were probably allowed to do that themselves and manage that accordingly, especially within financial services and a lot of others. There's been a real change in terms of limited company availability, and a lot of roles have been deemed inside I-35. I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call that were previously limited that are now umbrella. And what Liam's mentioned is a really good, valid point, is that, you know, we still want to be able to make sure that we can offer very similar, if not the same type of services for those workers that are going down the umbrella route. And having worked across 3 or 4 different umbrella companies over the past 15 years and like to keep out ahead of our competitors, you know, that isn't a standard offering. Umbrella has evolved over the last 10-15 years, and you know, there's some companies that do allow contractors to contribute towards a private pension. There's some companies that don't, and there's some companies that have a certain panel or criteria of which companies you can and you can't use. But I think one of the good things with the Danbro Group is that we understand the financial planning and the tax efficiency of contractors, whether you're limited company, whether you're umbrella. And we do payroll probably about 50 or 55 different pension providers each month, because ultimately, you know, we're the employer if you're an umbrella contractor, but we shouldn't really dictate where your pensions and your savings should go to. So every single month we have a team that makes sure that contributions are made to that private pension partner. Clearly, if it's a new relationship, we may have to go through a different process. But I think we've got either currently live or historically, we've got about 50 or 55 different pension providers. And I suppose the most common ones that we engage with, you would normally sort of feel at St James's Place, Hargreaves Lansdown there. You know, typically a lot of common contractors come to us with a pension pot and they just want to continue to contribute towards that. So, you know, if you're a recruitment agency on this call and you want to look at how can you attract contingent workers or how you can retain them, these are the types of questions that I think could be brought up in sort of interview stage and getting to know your candidate. Because if they're having to change their pension provider every 3 or 6 months because they've got a different agency or a different umbrella company they're using, likelihood is that a lot of them changes will force them back into permanent work and obviously give up the right for you to earn a margin. You know, if you're a contractor on this call, again, similarly to you shouldn't have to be dictated by the agency or by the umbrella company you're engaged through about how your pension can be utilised. And I think with Danbro, we're in a really fortunate position that we're pretty flexible across the board in terms of which partners we can use. So, yeah, if pensions is something that it is a real discussion point and you want to know more, then clearly do get in touch.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Let's talk briefly about insurance and protection now. That's not something we've really covered yet. Liam, I know insurance is obviously, you know, we know it's crucial, but many contractors might be thinking, yeah, well, exactly. And many contractors might be thinking, you know, they're young and healthy. Do they really need this? What would your kind of response to that mindset be?
Well, I mean, it's like any insurance, isn't it? You know, it's one of those things you see. Any form of insurance you see going out of your accounts every month, and you sort of periodically might read your bank statements and think, well, what is that? What am I paying? And what's it for? The issue with anybody who's a contractor or self-employed, however that's set up, you know, via an umbrella company or a limited company, the issue is, you know, you're not sort of a full-time employee, so you're probably not getting the benefits of being a full-time employee in terms of, you know, potentially, you know, you might be in a highly professional position where if you're employed, you might get some sick pay or you might get some death in service benefits to help your family if anything happens to you. So quite a common discussion point when we're talking to people in this situation, particularly when they're new to contracting, is to sort of say, well, look, what benefits did you have before, and you know, did you value them, and what do you think of them? You know, do you want to look at doing that sort of thing again? So yeah, we you know, we can help and advise on that from across the market. Again, different scenarios, different employment types, different income levels, different cover levels, different types of cover, from, you know, sick pay, income protection type cover, life insurance, critical illness insurance, and so on. And the need is there for people to protect themselves and their families ultimately. So yeah, it's definitely a live discussion point. People are sort of, maybe I don't know, maybe it's a sign of the times, but people are certainly a little bit more fragile about the sources of income and the general financial security. So again, talking it through with somebody can be really helpful to actually work out what you've got, what you need, and do you need to do anything about it. And in terms of if you're running a limited company, for example, there are a number of things that potentially you could get the company to pay for you tax efficiently. So again, getting some advice around that area can pay off quite nicely.
Excellent. Thanks, Liam. We're coming towards the end of the questions, but Michael, I just wanted to ask quickly, recruitment agents, obviously we know, are laser focused on placing contractors as quickly and efficiently as they can do. We know how our financial planning support could help them individually. We've gone through that, but I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, just if you wanted to just go in a little bit further about how we can make their job easier and enhance their reputation with their contractors.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. I think if you're a recruiter, clearly one of the main aims for you is to build a relationship and get buy-in from the candidate and make sure that they're fit for purpose. But I think more so than that is that you want to retain that candidate. You want to make sure that candidate is happy in the job, but also happy with all of the benefits that go with it. And I keep mentioning that there's been a lot of change over the last number of years. I think, as we head into the Labour government now, there'll be even more change going forward. But I think from a Danbro Group perspective, we want to be, we're ticking all of the boxes in terms of compliance and in terms of payroll and processes. But in order for us to actually add genuine added value, we've been doing a lot of work with Liam and the team and across the group, and feedback we're getting is that being able to retain talent and being able to attract talent goes above and beyond the recruitment stage. It's what perks, what added value, what do I get for being a contractor? And I think being able to be as flexible as we can with pensions, having expert advice on mortgages, offering things like critical illness cover and income protection to really get that candidate's lifestyle to fit into what they want. They don't get the same perks and the same benefits as maybe what you and I get as a genuine fixed employee of a company that you work directly for. So I think for us as a group, it's probably, I've been at Danbro now for the last 8 weeks, and I think it's been probably, I think Liam will agree, probably one of our biggest kept secrets is that we do have all of this offering. And historically, it was mainly just targeted at limited company directors and those self-employed directors. But the landscape of the industry has changed, and it will continue to do so. So all of these services and products and added value benefits and perks, they shouldn't just be geared up for one silo portfolio of workers. A lot of them can be offered to the likes of umbrella contractors. A lot of them can also be offered to agency suppliers to Danbro. And anybody that's on this call today, it is advisable for you to have a consultation, just review what your position is to make sure that you are getting the best possible service, the best possible solutions for your individual circumstances.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. So I guess the key question after everything that we've heard so far is if you're a contractor, if you're a limited company director or a recruitment agent, why should you care? So what makes this partnership more valuable, Liam, would you say, to them compared to another umbrella company? And why is DFP such a hidden advantage for Danbro contractors and Danbro affiliates?
I'll answer that just by sort of typical feedback that we get at our end, which is perhaps where they may have used a different advisor previously or a different mortgage broker, whatever it might be. It's because we're integrated within the group. We're very quickly able not only to understand the type of work that you do and how you're paid and that sort of thing. We're also able to leverage, with your permission, if you're a contractor, for example, getting hold of information quickly. It's been really useful, for example, from the mortgage team, because we've had cases where we've been able to get for self-employed people, we've been able to get accounts out quicker in order to support a mortgage application. For umbrella contracts, we've been able to get hold of contracts, we've been able to get hold of pay slips very quickly, again saving people time. So being integrated with the group, we understand contractors, we understand freelancing, we understand running a limited company and running a small to medium-sized enterprise, and we understand the challenges that brings to you in terms of your time and your commitments. And so, we're attuned to that. We're trying to make it easy and slicker across the board to be integrated together, which ultimately should help get things done quicker and more efficiently for you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Liam. And I don't know if you've got anything to add there, Michael.
Yeah, I think if you look at an umbrella payroll company as a silo, and then you look at a financial advisor as a silo, they probably have different direction of things that they want to look at. They've got different reports, they're not linked as such. And I think one of the most important things that Liam and I have been speaking about probably over the last few months since I started here is that, the group is definitely that. We might have individual brands within that, but that allows us to move quickly. So whether it's forming a brand new limited company, as soon as you've got to become a director, you've got your bank account, your VAT, we can then have a consultation to understand what your dividend split in is, or have a look at your contract assignment rate and make sure that your shareholder scheme is as great as what it should be, as it's tax efficient. If you're an umbrella contractor and you have your contract for services and your assignment schedule in place ready for your new contract before maybe any background checks have been completed, we can work together to understand how much do you want to put into that pension, which pension provider do you want to go with, and I think having this speed element as well as the technical and experience background just allows us to move into the right position for you a lot quicker than maybe having an independent IFA and a neutral umbrella company. You're kind of having two different businesses that maybe are not as close as what obviously we are when you do it as one. So I think for me it's about all of the experience and the technical and the background, but it's linked together, a part of the group. So it just means that if you're a contractor, you're sort of getting to where you need to a lot quicker.
Absolutely. Now, we did dangle the carrot a little bit earlier on, but so it would be kind of remiss of us not to mention the preferential terms that are available on DFP services to contractors who upgrade to our new premium umbrella plans, Danbro Umbrella Plus, which some of you may have heard of, and the all new Trafalgar Gold package as well. Both Gold and Plus, I should mention, are available to all new and current clients from the new tax year, so Monday the 7th of April. Michael, I don't know if you wanted to sort of delve in a little bit deeper into telling the guys a little bit more about what's on offer.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. It's probably been on top of my radar since I started here at Danbro, is that you have a supply chain of typically recruitment agencies and contractors, and you have two different types of requirements. Typically in your blue collar marketplace, you have contractors that want to get paid quickly. They want as cheap and cheerful umbrella margin as possible, and they want to be able to get as much money as they can as quickly as they can. And I think we do that. We've got a really, really streamlined process when it comes to payroll. I'm thankfully, touch wood, I don't spend half of my Friday trying to deal with payroll issues. It's a delight to see that we can just get things done before things go wrong. And I think if you look at the flip side of that, you look at white collar contractors, you look at contractors that want more than just being paid. They want the added value, they want the perks, they want the critical illness cover, they want the income protection, they want the mortgages, they want the pension. So we've been working really hard behind the scenes, and like Sam says, I think at the start of the financial tax year, we will be rolling out a Umbrella Plus if you're a Danbro contractor. We'll be rolling out a Trafalgar Gold if you're a Trafalgar contractor, and this is for all new and existing workers. And it comes with free access to our IFA team, which Liam oversees, but also comes with quite a bit more. It comes with rewards package, employee perks. It comes with additional entries into our holiday giveaway. It's a really sort of plus premium package for those contractors that want that extra added value and value added piece rather than just being a payroll company. So really looking forward to that getting taken off at the start of the next tax year, Sam.
Absolutely. And everybody on the call or everybody on the mailing list will receive far more information on Plus and Gold, and there'll be plenty more shared across our socials as well, so keep an eye out for that. Fantastic. So just before we move on to the questions, I just want to remind you guys on the call that if you're not already a Danbro or DFP client, but you'd like to set up a free consultation with Liam or a member of his team, there are a number of ways in which you can do that. You can either book a call via our website, which is danbrofinancial.co.uk. My colleague Izzy has already put a link there in the chat for you, as well as our general inquiries email too. And as I mentioned earlier, we are also going to send everybody a full recording of today's webinar in a separate communication, probably tomorrow, which will include more contact information. If you're an Umbrella or Trafalgar client as well, there will be some communications going out later today as well to cover the Chancellor's Spring Statement in the House of Commons, because I appreciate you guys have joined us rather than listening to that. Maybe that was by design, I don't know. So if there's anything else you guys want to mention, Michael or Liam, if not, we can move on to some questions. Okay, so
ready for the questions.
Yeah, let's go for it. So let's open the floor up to you guys. I can see some people have already put some questions into the chat. So just for ease of use, if we just use the chat rather than the video call, that'll probably make it a little bit easier. So let's start with one from David, which is there a minimum duration that someone can be with Danbro in order to qualify for a mortgage? And obviously, whichever one of you guys wants to jump in on these questions, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. The short answer is no, but it depends on your employment background in a lot of ways. A lot of the contractor-friendly mortgages will require a certain length of contracting. So, for example, if you're brand new to it and you've never done it before in the past, they might want to see you contracting for 6 or 12 months, for example, and they would probably want to see a similar coming from a similar background into the contracting. So, like IT contracting to IT contracting, employed to contracting, if you like. So they want to see that sort of continuity of employment type. But there's not a specific minimum. Again, you know, I mean, I'm going back 5 or 6 years now. That typically you might have had to do 12 months as a contractor or 2 years as a contractor to qualify with a lot of lenders. But that's not necessarily the case these days. So again, you know, depending on your individual circumstances, you would just get in touch and we can help you with that a little bit further.
Great, thanks, Liam. We just had another one through from Malaz Idris. So do you also provide financial advice on investments? I can answer that one for you, Malaz. Yes, we do. So using those links that are in that chat section there, you'll be able to book a call directly with Liam and a member of his team who are ideally placed to deal with those inquiries. Okay, so one from Jeremy. Do you have a tool that calculates in advance a self-assessment tax return? I think the tax I pay partly depends on how much I contribute to a personal pension, as the amount contributed has a corresponding increase in the 20% tax rate upper threshold. With a tool, I could balance pension contributions with tax that may be owed or overpaid. So I guess that's just a question around self-assessments in advance of.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's probably if you've got an accountant doing your self-assessment, they should be able to do that for you. But in terms of a tool, I mean, I don't have one personally. There probably is one available online somewhere, I would imagine.
Great.
But
okay.
we can have a look at that and maybe get it out there if there is one somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. We'll look into that one. We've had one from Cedar as well. I hope I've got your name right there, Cedar. Are you charging for a financial call? So we don't charge for an initial consultation, but obviously beyond that there are charges associated. But again, use those inquiry links to get in touch with Liam. We've had one that's been liked more than any other, so I guess I better ask that one. Another one from David. So last year HMRC slapped me with over £23,000 in tax, and obviously, he says this is quite painful. And I know everyone's circumstances are different, but how can you help me as a contractor who uses Danbro for their umbrella company to save on such huge tax? I don't know if you want to come in on this as well, Michael, but over to you first, Liam.
Well, again, it's individual circumstances. So, you know, we can certainly have a chat and see whether you're making the most of any allowances that you've got, whether you're claiming everything you could be claiming. You know, but unfortunately, once you're in the PAYE world, your tax is calculated automatically at source and as per government regulation. So, yeah, you do need to sort of look at it individually and say, yeah, are there things we can do, such as things like pension contributions, but are you claiming the correct amounts of relief if you're doing them personally? We see that a lot where we might have a higher rate taxpayer and they're paying into a private pension through the the personal bank account, and they haven't been claiming the higher rate relief. Now, in those examples, you can go back 6 years, which will give you a fair amount of tax back potentially. But don't necessarily assume that if you're paying it from your personal bank account that you're getting all the tax relief that you're due. So yeah, there's things like that we can look at. But yeah, when you're under PAYE, it is a little bit tighter, obviously, in terms of your options.
Great, thank you, Michael. I don't know if you've got anything to jump in on there. If not, I've got another one for you.
Nothing from me. I think Liam's covered it. Thanks.
Okay, so this one's to you then. So from Adam, for umbrella workers that are inside IR35, obviously, are there any other salary sacrifice opportunities other than pension? So electric vehicle, cycle to work schemes, things like that.
I suppose in a nutshell, probably no. I think the big thing is private pension. Clearly, there's a number of pension providers that certain umbrella companies can use. Don't just think that you have to use the one that the umbrella company have got a relationship with. As I mentioned, there might be other pensions out there that you've got a prehistorical one with, and it might be a lot easier and more tax efficient for you to top that one up. But yeah, I think going back to the question, when travel and subsistence got removed back in 2017, ultimately it meant that the main real focus for contractors working through an umbrella perspective is continued employment, use that as a benefit, tax relief on your salary sacrifice on your pension. But I think this is where Liam and the teams can really add a lot of value. Is you're clearly putting money into a pension. There's clearly an option here to be more tax efficient, but there's other things that maybe you might not be aware of that we could help with, i.e. a mortgage. If you're a contractor, do you have a specific contractor mortgage that mortgage lenders will take, the value of the assignment rather than just, it's a 6-month contract, I'll only give you this amount of borrowing. So I think for me, it's about, yes, pension is the big one in terms of umbrella, but you do now have access as part of Liam's team to be able to say, well, what else can I have a better, well-rounded solution with, and what products and services do I actually not really take advantage of that's out there that might be able to help me?
Great, thanks, Michael.
Could I just add something to that, Sam?
Yeah, of course you can.
The message made a good point about sort of cycle to work schemes and EV schemes and stuff like that. It's obviously really difficult for an umbrella company to provide those kind of things, isn't it, Michael? Because you don't know the length of the tenure of the contractor, and you're committing the business to buying an EV on a lease and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty difficult to do that in particular, I would say. But that's just me from the outside looking in.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did look at something probably a couple of years back, and you're right. If we take an EV contract out, it still becomes. It's the owner is Danbro. Danbro's the owner of the car, and then it gets re-released to the contractor. So contractors might have a 6-month contract, and for whatever reason it gets cut short after 2 months. We're left with an EV that we probably don't want as an employer, but it's really difficult. We did have a look at that. It's something that we were keen on looking at because we knew that the landscape's moving towards EVs, and everybody becoming much more conscious of travel. But it just doesn't seem to work. I've not seen that across the whole umbrella world. I might be wrong if other people have used it previously, but as I say, from my previous umbrella companies, we just never been able to get over the line. And I think it's probably what Liam says is we're not in control of how long you actually contract, even though we'd like that to align with your length of your lease. It just doesn't seem to work, unfortunately.
No, that seems perfectly fair. We've got a question in the Q&A section from Andre. Do you advise customers and companies regarding buy-to-let mortgage providers? Yes, we do. Andre, again, those links that Izzy's put in the chat will put you to the right person to talk to about that within DFP. We've got a question from Zoe. So if you're using the Digi SIP, is there tax to claim back for additional and higher rate taxpayers? If so, what are the practical steps and amounts to claim back from HMRC?
Want me to take that, Michael?
Sounds like it's got your name written all over that, Liam.
So it was Zoe, wasn't it? Hi,
yes,
Zoe. So in terms of the personal contributions that you make just on the auto enrolment section, I'm going to get a bit technical here. So the statutory minimum contributions that you make, that Danbro have to enrol you in at, those are collected from your net pay. and receive basic rate relief into the pension. Okay, so on that element of your contribution, you would be able to put that through a self-assessment, or there is a smaller form if you're not in the self-assessment system, which potentially would allow you to claim back an additional 20% relief as a 40% taxpayer. If you're paying extra over and above your statutory amounts into the DigiSIP, then those, I understand, are taken via salary sacrifice. So you're already getting the relief at source. It's not coming through the top of your pay slip. It's been skimmed off before, so you're saving the tax and the NI on that as well.
Great, thanks, Liam. So the next question we've got is from Lee. So when he asked about pension contributions at source, he was told that the SIP payments had to be made into our partner SIP DigiWealth, but he'd personally prefer to pay direct into his own SIP via Aviva. So he's intentionally asking, are there any plans to change this? Michael, I think we could probably give him some additional information on that.
Yeah, no, we've been working hard. Digi's obviously our, I suppose, pension provider of choice. And for those that don't know, Digi is its own independent, self-invested private pension. I've worked at previous business where they have an auto-enrollment pension with the likes of Smart or Nest, and they are a very different pension provider than that of Digi. So Digi is in its own right a self-invested private pension. However, we've been working with them, and what they've said is that they can move money from Digi to your own chosen provider if you want to. So like I go back to at the start of this webinar, is that if you've got your own private pension partner that you want to engage with, Digi is an alternative. You don't necessarily have to use that as an option, but that is our default position for us ticking the boxes, enrolling you into a workplace pension. So if you've got an Aegon or an Aviva pension and you want your money going into that one, then we can make sure that that's facilitated, definitely.
Thanks, Michael. One from John as well on a similar vein. So he opted out of the Danbro pension scheme as he contributes to a SIP post-tax, as he is over the £100,000 threshold, and uses his pension contributions to offset this. Is this the most tax-efficient position, or is there a bigger advantage for a pension taken at pre-tax income source? Probably one for you, that, Liam.
Well, traditionally under a PAYE scheme, if you take it pre, there's an administrative thing and there's a tax thing. So if you do it via a salary sacrifice scheme through your payroll provider, Umbrella, then in theory you save the national insurance as well. So a slight advantage, as opposed to paying it from your post-tax earnings and then having to go to HMRC to claim it back. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Great. Okay. A couple of messages from Victoria. Can you please share the contact details for mortgage advice and financial advice? My colleague Izzy will share them again. They're further up the chat, but they might have been lost as a lot of people asking questions. And she also needs some advice on income protection too, which again, we can absolutely help you with, Victoria. So that the links will be in that chat to book a call there. If I just go on the chat section, see if there are any more that I've missed. So we've got one from Khalid. If you are hitting the £100,000 mark in the last week of the tax year, so obviously this would be now, wouldn't it? Or next week, should I say? What tax efficiency options are available? I.e., can you submit the last timesheet in the new tax year? Probably one for you, that, Michael.
I think if you are getting paid via an umbrella, then your tax code and your tax calculations are all worked out on an accumulative basis. So if you earn, let's say, £10,000 a month, your tax code assumes you're going to earn 120,000. I think that's where a discussion with Liam and the team when you start your contract will be advisable, because they can preempt what your earnings will be for the year. And if you're earning 120,000, they'll know that if you put 21,000 in your pension for the year, not all at one go, then it means that your aggregated earnings will be 99,000. That's applicable for tax and national insurance. So I think you've got time if you don't submit your final pay slip, and it just means that if you put your pay slip in, your timesheet in after the tax year, along with the week one, it'll automatically assume that you earn that every week. So that's probably not the best practice, but what I would suggest is, like Liam's mentioned, you don't just get tax relief, you get also national insurance relief when you put your pension through salary sacrifice. And for those that didn't know, obviously employees' national insurance is going up to 15% as of next tax year from 13.8. So it's even more of an incentive to make sure you're as tax efficient as possible. It's definitely worth ensuring that you speak to the team over at Liam's team to make sure that your forecasted income is as tax efficient as it can be, and we can ensure that your pension contributions are staggered across the year, so it doesn't just get all done at the end of the year. But if you find yourself in a position now where you've had additional income or you need to reduce your earnings that are taxable, we can obviously, given the time restraints, we can do what we can between now and then. So definitely pick up with Liam and the team as soon as you can.
I'll add to that one. I've spoken to Khalid actually.
Okay.
Last week, I recognised the query. So I wasn't sure what he could do with the pay slip, so I said, you need to speak to Danbro about the legalities of doing that, obviously. Pushing a pay slip into the next year or pushing a timesheet into the next year. But there are obviously other reliefs that you might not be claiming that you could potentially claim. So, if you're giving any money to charity and things like that, if you're just going to breach the 100k limit, if you want to bring yourself down below for whatever reason, particularly if you're very close to tax, if you're £1,000 over, it's a couple of £100 difference in the tax or whatever. But it is a precipice for the point of view of things like childcare provision. So it's a tough one, that, really.
Okay, thanks, Liam. Michael, I just wondered if you could put Faye's mind at rest. So she's got a question saying her work at Danbro Umbrella will be her only source of income during the 24-25 tax year. Is she to expect a tax bill from HMRC?
Probably the easiest question of the lot, really, for me.
So
I suppose just to make things really simple, if you are an umbrella employee of Danbro and this is your only source of income, the tax that will be applied to your earnings for that assignment will be exactly the same tax as though you were employed directly through that client. So you will definitely not have a tax liability. All of the tax is calculated from your accumulative income. There is a potential slight change if your last pay in the year is higher than what it's expected. You may well have a underpaid slight amount of tax, and likewise if your last payment in the year is lower than what HMRC anticipate, you may well get a tax refund. But in terms of a self-assessment, unless you earn over 100,000, or in terms of any corporation tax or income tax that's normally associated with limited companies, there should be very limited, if any, additional tax that's payable at the end of the year. Clearly, even myself and Sam and Liam, HMRC will expect our earnings to be consistent across the year. But if we get a bonus, for example, in the last month of the year, even ourselves will probably have underpaid the right levels of tax because the tax account online won't have caught up with our actual earnings. So just to put your mind at ease, providing there's not any substantial changes that has occurred in the last period of your income, then there'll be no additional taxes that you need to pay, and you'll get a P60 from Danbro, and obviously for the previous year. And we'll start again from the next tax year on the correct rates and bandings.
Excellent, thank you. We've only got a couple of moments left, but there is one question here for you, Michael. So this is from John, is it easy to ask Danbro to increase pension contributions? Is it a case of just asking the team to advise what's the most efficient percentage to change to?
I think that's sitting on the fence a little bit. It all depends on your individual circumstances. So if you're currently paying 5% for whatever reason, and you've had a slight increase in your pay rate, or the assignment rate's increased, or you might have 2 assignments running cumulatively, it's definitely worth speaking to Liam and the team. They'll have a look at your forecasted and projected income, have a look at what the percentage should be in order to keep you below certain thresholds and be as tax efficient as possible. And then we can reach out to your pension lender, pension provider, and ensure that them changes are made. It's quite a simple process, but I think before we make any changes, we just have to understand the individual circumstances and forecasted income.
I think the practicalities of that, just to answer it pretty quickly, is if you do want to change your pension contributions at any time, or you want to increase them or decrease them, you can go through the Danbro payroll team to facilitate that. It doesn't necessarily require a consultation with us unless you're physically looking for some advice around it.
Great, thanks, guys. So one quick question here from Anna, which I can answer. So please, can you provide the buy-to-let mortgage provider's link? I'm assuming it's not available to view in the chat. So we'll put the link should take you through to be able to book a meeting with any of our providers. Advisors, should I say? And just the general mortgages one will take you through to somebody to discuss buy-to-let mortgages. But we'll re-put that in the chat now. And I'll take one more question from the main chat section. We've got an influx, but I'm really sorry, guys. We're not going to be able to get around to all of them. One from Anil. If you're hitting the £200,000 plus mark via Umbrella Pay, what other strategies for maximising efficiency are there other than utilising the £60,000 pension contribution? We're going to end on that one.
Assuming, let's just ignore sort of there are sort of tax investment schemes in the market that you can go for. They're pretty high risk. So things like VCTs, EISs and stuff like that, but they're not for the faint-hearted. The pension limit, 60,000, is per tax year. But if you maximise this year's tax allowance or any year's tax allowance, you can actually look back into 3 previous tax years and see if you've not paid the full 60,000. So, for example, if you haven't paid anything for the last few years and you were still, and you've been, as long as you've been a member of a registered UK pension scheme during those tax years, you could carry forward any unused allowance, such to the point where, in theory, you could put 150,000 and probably beyond in it if you needed to.
Brilliant, thanks, Liam.
Again, get some advice on that because it's a tricky one.
Well, to be honest, you brought me onto my point anyway. So obviously we've not been able to get around to everybody's questions. So I really am sorry if we've not managed to answer yours. As Liam's just said there, ask away, get in touch. It's a free consultation. We're here to answer any and every question that you guys may have. I just want to say a massive thank you to Liam and Michael for joining us today. We are going to be doing more of these throughout the year. So we can easily do another one next month, and anybody who didn't get a chance to ask a question today is welcome to do so. Keep your eyes peeled for more on Plus and Gold as well. And I guess that's it from me, unless there's anything else that Liam and Michael would like to add.
I think just to say a big thanks for everyone for joining us. Clearly, there's also going to be an update from the Labour government that we'll digest and send updates through. It might or might not impact contractors and legislative changes, but no, I think today's been really useful from our side to be able to gauge, audiences like contractors and recruitment agencies, what the art of the possible is and what options are out there to consider. So a big thank you for everyone for taking the time to join us.
Completely agreed. Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Liam. And thank you everybody for joining us. See you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.